I'm Andrew Hooverus, the Director of Experiential Training at the Florida Institute of Technology's School of Behavior Analysis, and I have the great privilege today of talking to a Florida Tech distinguished alumnus, Shanita Allen, who is both a board-certified behavior analyst and a children's author of the Let's Go Dreaming book series. Shanita, how are you today?
Hi, Andrew. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am super thrilled to hear your story. So to our listeners, while Shanita and I have met and done a briefing via Zoom, as everything seems to be conducted nowadays, I didn't prior with too many questions because much like you guys, I really wanted to hear her story. So Shanita, if you don't mind, since we're talking a little bit about Florida Tech, a little bit about behavior, and a whole lot about your new role as children's author, can you tell us a little bit about your experience at Florida Tech?
Oh, I had such a wonderful experience at Florida Tech. It was, 2003 when I attended the program. And I met Jose during my undergraduate coursework at Florida State University. He came and spoke to, I believe it was Dr. John Bates, to that classroom. And I just fell in love with him. I mean, and anyone who has ever had the pleasure of meeting him just knows how I don't know, just how contagious his personality is. Like, he's just such a happy, bubbly person. And he just makes you want to just, I don't know, smile and laugh all the time. So when I was able to hear him speak and have him tell the class about the program, I was just super intrigued. And I knew I wanted to attend FIT. I had to be in that man's class. He was just, I don't know, he was just such a joy to be around. So I applied to the program and I was accepted, thankfully. And I attended from 2003 to 2005. So my experience there was, it was a bit tumultuous in the beginning, and because I had so much going on that first year. I was a full-time student, I had a full-time job. I was fresh out of undergrad and I was really burned out. So a lot of people don't know this, but I almost dropped out of graduate school my first semester because the coursework was just, it was overwhelming, which I know, like, coursework is hard for graduate school. It's not a cakewalk. So going to the program, I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do it. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. So that's no reflection of the program. It was just, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to, pass these classes, how focus, but I stayed, thankfully, and I had a wonderful experience. I met a lot of amazing individuals. Some of them now have gone on to do great things. Joshua Pritchard, the FABA president, Melissa Nossick, who's the deputy CEO of the BACB. She was actually my mentor while I was there, working in the group homes at Devereaux. So it was amazing. It was amazing. I'm so glad that I attended the program and I was actually able to, meet so many wonderful people.
Yeah. For some of our listeners, they're very acutely aware of who Jose was and what a great man he was. And for some of our listeners who are novices, Jose Martinez Diaz was a longtime faculty member at Florida Tech and the founder of ABA Technologies. And he passed away in 2020, leaving a pretty sizable hole in many of our hearts because he recruited students like Shanita. He saw the potential in so many people. So Shanita, I thank you so much for kind of paying tribute to his legacy because he meant so much to so many of us. Shanita and I just as we keep talking and briefing each other and what have you, we both found out we're Florida State Seminoles. We both worked full-time in graduate school, which I think for anybody who's listening to this program, who's either in graduate school or considering graduate school, I think whether it's behavior analysis or another program, I think it's always really good to hear that someone who's as successful as yourself, that there were struggles, because graduate school is hard and the rigors of Florida Tech. We have a good reputation in many of our programs because there is great academic rigor. But that consequently means it's not going to be very easy and it's a tough time. So I love how you brought that to light. Shanita, so you got certified, you've been serving individuals with developmental disability for 15, 16 years now, or actually longer than that?
Over 17 now.
Oh, wow.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Now, Shanita, in your work,
It's
oh, sorry, apologies.
Oh, no. I was just gonna say I've worked at a brain injury facility, group homes. So it's just different areas in behavior analysis that I've had the pleasure of working.
Yeah, Shanita, the field of behavior analysis obviously is undergoing some changes. When I say changes, I mean we're growing almost exponentially. Having been in the field for quite a while, is there any gems or words of wisdom you could give to prospective behavior analysts, people thinking they want to maybe come into the field, or some of the people who are embarking upon their career journeys as BCBAs, BCABAs, RBTs, and what have you?
Right. Yeah. And I agree. I have seen the field grow significantly from the time that I was in graduate school up until now. So I would just suggest anybody who's interested, I would say go for it. There's so many different realms that you can tap into in behavior analysis. It's not just, because when I was in graduate school, a lot of the focus was on individuals who are diagnosed with autism, but there's so many different areas that you can work in. Like I mentioned, I actually worked in a brain injury facility. So that's another avenue that you can, apply behavior analysis to. Of course, you can work in the school system. You can work in the, for the government, because I believe there's a lot of programs directed towards veterans that deal with behavior analysis. So there's just so many different things that you can get into. So if helping others is something that you're passionate about, then I would say definitely explore the opportunities, because, even if one specific niche doesn't appeal to you, there's so many things that you can do with behavior analysis. And not to mention the organizational behavior management component, where you don't even necessarily have to work with individuals with developmental disabilities. You're working in the business sector. So
yeah,
definitely explore the options.
You and I share that passion for wanting to help people. I think that's the initial draw that maybe brings many of us in. And then while the overwhelming majority of people who are behavior analysts provide services to people with developmental disabilities, autism in particular, and that's sometimes I always thought, I love how you articulated what is out there for people, that they can do OBM, that they might look at traumatic brain injury as a possibility. One of the former FIT alumni does work for the government. The government actually was hiring behavior scientists without a specific goal of having behavior analysts, but that's another niche where we can fit in. So there's so many areas that behavior analysis is applicable, because it's of course a science of behavior. It's not a science of autism.
Right.
Behavior.
Right.
Yeah, that science of behavior to improve the lives of people with autism, to help them reach their goals, to work with them and collaborate with those individuals to find out what their needs are and how we can help structure things to give them repertoires to be able to realize their hopes, their goals, their dreams, right?
Absolutely.
Speaking of dreams, I'm going to segue away to behavior analysis for just a minute. And I want to talk to you about your book series. I am absolutely fascinated about that a behavior analyst, a person working with people with disabilities for many, many years, has now gone on to become an author and has written this book series. Tell us a little bit about your book series.
Well, the book series itself is called Let's Go Dreaming. So I published my very first book, Sleep Tiny Dreamer, back in 2019. And let me just go a little further back in saying that I've always loved writing and reading in particular. So, younger, I read a lot, and this was way before technology. This was way before cell phones. I grew up in the 80s. So, we didn't have phones back then. We didn't have iPads and tablets, and we had a house phone, which was connected to the wall, and we had a television set that you had to actually walk up to and turn the knob to turn the channel. So I invested a lot of time in just reading. There wasn't a lot of access to entertainment like how it is now, at the, any moment's notice, you can have a movie or, TV shows within reach, within reach of your fingertips. You just push a button on your phone and oops, there goes a movie. So when I was younger, I read a lot and I used my imagination. I just always wanted to be an author. I read children's books, chapter books, young adult books, adult books, at a very young and author. So that was actually my dream when I was younger. It was to be a published author of children's books. So fast forward to high school and college. High school is where I fell in love with psychology. And I was actually intending on going to college to become a psychiatrist. But I fell in love with to write as much as I would love to. And I had after graduate school, I didn't that I had to do. I was not interested in reading anymore. So I took a long break from writing. And in 2018 is when I was just inspired to write books again. So the very first one is Sleep Tiny Dreamer. That is just a short bedtime story posing the question, where's your little one going to go when they go to sleep tonight? Are they going to climb a mountain? Are they going to dance among the stars? The possibilities are endless. So all of my books touch on that same subject matter. Basically, if you can dream it, then you have, limited potential to be able to achieve that dream as long as you believe in yourself.
Very nice. I love that. You mentioned just a few minutes ago when you were talking about your initial start to graduate school, you said again that your first year was really tough, that you were in a rigorous academic program full time, you were working full time, which again is not the norm usually in graduate school. And you said, and I'm going to quote you here, you said that you lacked a little bit of confidence in yourself.
Yes.
When you're writing your children's books, is that one of the intentions or aims you have in writing these books for children?
Absolutely. It's almost like I'm living vicariously through my character, because my character is brave. She has all this confidence, and that is just something that I want to instill in children and adults as well, because we all know, if any of us have ever read a children's book, we know there's a message in there for adults as well. So if you have confidence in yourself, that's basically the key to anything you are going to, strive to achieve in life. You have to believe in yourself. You have to have confidence, because there's going to be so many naysayers, so many people that tell you that you can't do something, or, just real world, situations where things come up with family, or, you never know what can happen. I mean, look at 2020, COVID. There's going to be tons of obstacles and tons of excuses for us not to pursue something. So we have to, take it upon ourselves to just say, you know what, I have this goal in mind. And no matter what happens, as long as I believe in myself and I keep striving for it, then it's totally within the realm of possibility to be able to become my reality.
Very nice.
So yes, that is a message that I want to relate to everyone. Courage.
Very good. Tell us a little bit more about your main character.
Her name is Little Ari, and she has a talking dog named Pepper. So in Sleep Tiny Dreamer, Sleep Tiny Dreamer is like I said, it's more of a lull your baby to sleep type of book. So there's no real the character is androgynous in the very first book. In the second book is when we introduce Little Ari and her talking dog. So she explains to Pepper what dreams are in book number 2. what do they look like? What do they sound like? What do they taste like? Basically, she goes through the five senses explaining what dreams are, and she reveals a magical formula for you to be able to create your own dream. And then in the books to come, they go on adventures in each book in their dreams, and they meet different characters and learn different lessons along the way.
You said initially androgynous, and when I've looked at some of the illustrations, Ari is a young girl of color.
Yes.
Okay. And was that important to you to have a main character who reflected a little bit of you?
Yes, absolutely. When I was growing up, like I mentioned, I read a lot of books, and I really can't even recall until I was older and I started reading more like young adult books. So as far as children's book, I can't even recall two of them that had African American characters in them, and that's not to say that they weren't out there, but I didn't read any, and they were very few and far between. So it was very important for me to have a character that looks like me, number one, because there's so many other African American girls and boys who need representation in children's books. And the importance of having a character who looks like us is that we can see ourselves reflected in that character. We can relate to them more. So when we see a person of color who's being represented in a book, they're doing all these amazing things. They have all this confidence. They are, they're friendly, they're successful, or what have you. We look at that character and say, wow, they do it. They look like me. So maybe that means that I can do it too. So it's like we're, I don't know the word for it, subconsciously or, non-verbally saying that this could be you because the character looks like you. So without even saying, hey, you can do this too, without saying that to them directly, by them reading a book of a character that looks like them, essentially that is the message that is being.
I'm sorry, the audio cut out
important,
just a second. Apologies for that. On my end, the audio cut out, so I didn't hear like the last 2 seconds.
No problem.
But I hear you talking. By the way, the confidence thing. Have you found your confidence increasing since you started pursuing this, this writing career and exploring, character development and what have you?
I have. I actually have. I've had numerous opportunities to speak with children, my target audience, and get feedback from them directly. And I don't know if you've ever interacted with, young children. I'm pretty sure you have. I think we all have interacted with young children in some form or fashion. And they are like the most honest people on the planet. Right. If they don't like something, they will tell you. So, so just getting feedback from them, how much they enjoy the story and how much I am encouraging them to follow their dreams. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, these are young children. The oldest classroom that I've been able to speak to so far is 5th grade, but for the most part, it's preschool, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. So their dreams can be a bit, what's the word I want to say? Outlandish, maybe. Mm-hmm. They want to be, kings and queens and, explore the universe, being astronauts. So they have really big ambitions, and maybe outlandish wasn't the correct word, but they have very big ambitions. So, just inspiring them to kind of dream and see, what it is that they're going to be when they grow up. So yeah, it's definitely helping me with my confidence.
Very good. Your book's been well received, and you were just talking about being able to speak to children. Tell us about some of the experiences you've been able to have and where you've been able to kind of talk about your book, whether it's schools or other venues?
Let's see, I've had the privilege of speaking at multiple elementary schools all over Hillsborough County.
Wow.
Which is the Tampa area. That's where I work. And I actually partnered with the Early Learning Coalition back in January of last year. And I was able to go into their daycares and host an author workshop. And in that particular situation, I went in on a Monday, read my books to the class, got them excited. And this was a VPK classroom. So they're like 4 and 5 year olds. So I got them all excited about, what they want to be when they grow up. And they actually wrote their own books. So during the week, the teachers assisted them with writing their own books. And then I came back on a Friday, and the media was actually there. I don't know if you're familiar with the Lakeland Ledger, but they are a huge newspaper company in Polk County. And I was actually featured in their newspaper on the front page. And I was like, whoa. So that was a big deal. That was definitely a big deal. But more so than that, and don't get me wrong, being featured in a newspaper was amazing. But when I am able to interact with children and inspire them, that means so much more to me. So much more. So that was just a priceless experience. So every time I'm able to go into a school and just speak with the youth, it's always a positive experience.
Have you had to pull into that bag of tricks, your tools as a board certified behavior analyst, to keep those young children in line while you go through the book?
Some of them, yes. Yes, absolutely. For the most part, the class is they're pretty good listeners. They do listen to their teacher, they sit still, but there's a few children that can be a little antsy. They don't like to sit in one place. So, I've been able to pivot, use a lot of pivot praise.
Pivot praise. Pivot praise. Yeah.
Yes.
Did your choices as a student of psychology in your undergrad at Florida State, and then as a student of behavior analysis at Florida Tech, did any of those experiences have any impact on your writings? Or are they two separate endeavors?
Yeah, it's almost like they're separate, but they're still connected. So like I said, before I even knew about behavior analysis when I was younger, I wanted to be an author. However, being able to write my books after becoming a behavior analyst, I was able to merge the two together. And though my books don't specifically, except for one of them, because there's a total of 9 books in the series. So each book does not specifically touch on developmental disability. There is one book in particular, which is later down in the series. That one has not been published yet, but there is one particular character who had trouble speaking. His speech was just incoherent, and he had a brother who would not give up on him. He was trying to figure out every avenue on how to be able to understand him. And not to give away the story, but there is a part of the story where it's like magic. He does learn how to speak. And when he does, he tells us that, he's thanking his brother for not giving up on him. And he says that it's not, a lot of people, they can't understand me. So they think that I'm not smart and I'm not good. And it's not that I don't know anything, I'm just misunderstood. So it's like they merge, the behavior analysis component, it does come out, but the overall message is still the same, even though I don't necessarily address individuals with developmental disabilities in each book. The underlying message is, have confidence in yourself, believe in yourself, and, just reach for the stars.
Absolutely.
Reach for the stars.
What a wonderful kind of universal message, whether a child has no disability or has a diagnosed disability or what have you. So that's a wonderful message. We've got
Right.
a nice question here from Julia. She's asking you, Shanita, how do you balance being a BCBA and being a writer? That's the first question. And then how do you incorporate your writing into applied behavior analysis or working with clients?
Well, the first part of the question is, how do I balance? So I would, on the weekends is when I would write my books, because I have a full-time career as a behavior analyst. So, during the week, I'm out seeing the individuals that I serve all throughout Hillsborough County. I actually work in residential, so I don't have a specific office location where I'm at all day. I visit my clients in their homes or group homes or wherever they are, in the community, what have you. But on the weekends is when I would find time to write. So I wrote all of my books at the beach. That was my time that was my downtime, my time to just relax. And I felt so much closer to nature whenever I would go to the beach. So it's like my creative juices would just flow when I got there. So the writing, that took, let's see, I wrote all 9 books in the course of, the first 8 books I wrote in the course of 2 months. So every time I would go to the beach, I would just write a book. Sounds like a lot, but they're children's books, they're shorter. So, so, ooh, that's impressive. I guess that is impressive, but writing novels. And then book number 9, I actually wrote like maybe 6 months after, because I thought I was done with the series, but turns out I wasn't. I had one more book in me. So, that as far as the writing, to be honest, that's the easy part. That is definitely the easy part. The more difficult part comes when you're talking about the marketing component, publicity, getting your name out there, so that way people will know that there's actually a book available. So just in my spare time, sometimes I would stay up late at night doing things, sending emails, or waking up early in the morning, doing the same things, or just scheduling time on the weekends to do certain things that are book related. So and there were plenty of times where I didn't get any sleep. I was up until like maybe 4:00 in the morning. And then I had to, I did get maybe a couple hours. I had to be back up at 7 to get ready for work and, go out and, meet with my clients. So it's definitely a juggling act. But when you're doing something that you love to do, it is totally worth it. Sleep is overrated anyway, from what I've been told.
I swear to you that we have been friends for years in a past life or something, because you say things that I say, and we have this history and with FIT and Florida State and all this good stuff. Yeah. I'll be
awesome.
very brief. Shanita, I feel very similarly about my job as a behavior analyst working at Florida Tech. I feel like I've got the greatest job in the world. And so, and I have other interests as well. And I really appreciate kind of your kind of wise perspective on balance and letting me and Julia and the rest of the listeners know it's tough to find that balance, but it's also worth it if you enjoy what it is you're doing. So so while you were working and writing and working hard to produce something that was meaningful to you, inspiring for parents and children, those days at the beach, I guess was time very well spent.
Yes, absolutely. Anytime I get to spend at the beach is definitely time well spent.
Ditto. So the second question Julia had was, and again, how do you incorporate your writing into applied behavior analysis or working with clients?
Well, as I mentioned before, I do have a book that touches on behavior analysis. But as far as how, the entire relates to the field, as I mentioned before, like the underlying message is basically believe in yourself. And more specifically, in the field of behavior analysis, and even if you're not a behavior analyst, just a caregiver, a parent, sometimes we tend to put limitations on our children or on the individuals because of their diagnosis. It's kind of like circular reasoning where, oh, you can't do this because you have autism. and or you can't do you'll never be able to get a job or be able to tie your shoe because of X, Y, and Z diagnosis. And let me just say, if nobody ever tells you this, that is completely not true. And that's not to say that we all don't have limitations, but we can't impose those limitations on individuals just because, somewhere down the line, a doctor, wrote a diagnosis for them. We never know what somebody is capable of until we give them the opportunity.
Yeah.
So you have to, in us as adults, just in general, whether you are a teacher, whether you're a nurse, doctor, whatever your profession is, you or us as adults, we have to instill in our children that they are capable of doing things, and you never know what's achieved until they try. So we can't put limitations on someone just because of a name, just because of a label. So I saw that to say that, every child that I speak to, whether they're my client or not, but especially, the individuals that I work with, I just try to instill that confidence in them, because a lot of them have that thinking, because a lot of them are adults, the ones that I work with. So they've been told their whole life, oh, I can't do this because of my diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, have you tried?
Yeah.
Have you actually tried, or are you just, believing what somebody told you? So, let's just try first. Let's just try and see first before we say we can't do something.
Sage advice. You are. It is so wonderful to listen to someone who seems to understand the importance of daring people to dream and raising expectations. I just to share something with you and the rest of the audience, Shanita. Jose Martinez Diaz was my longtime friend, and I didn't study under him. I didn't have the same relationship that many people at Florida Tech have. But I remember when I met him, he told me there was going to be a school of behavior analysis at Florida Tech when I met him in the 90s. And then that happened. And then I remember he told me he was going to get an OBM degree there as well. And that happened. He said eventually Florida Tech was going to get a PhD, and that happened. He always dreamed. And the one thing I drew upon as someone who loves Florida Tech and loved him as my friend, I was really happy to see his dream come to fruition. I'm really happy to see your dreams coming to fruition as a young woman who read, and I grew up in the 80s too, you guys. So much like Shanita, I had the difficult life of turning a TV by hand and having a phone that you had to sit down to make a phone call because you couldn't carry it with you everywhere and what have you. But and books were paper, and we're always on some type of paper. But it's really neat to see someone who dreamed of becoming an author find another passion as far as psychology and then behavior analysis, continuing 17 years in to help people achieve their goals, but also keeping this idea that we've got to inspire the next generation of dreamers. There's got to be this, they're going to be taking care of us soon, Shanita. So we've got to continue to inspire them. So absolutely, again, yes. Love that whole idea. Andy asks a question. He says, what's the role of empathy, both in your profession and your writing?
I was doing an interview a few months ago, and the interviewer asked me what I thought my strength and weakness was as a writer. And my answer was empathy. Mm-hmm. It's my strength and my weakness, because it is it's so important for you to have that empathy when you're trying to relate to other individuals. And as an author, it's very easy for me to put myself into someone else's shoes and be able to write from that character's perspective. I have tons of empathy, and sometimes it is a detriment because I'm sure some of you can relate to this, but when you're a very empathetic individual, when you're around a person who is struggling or hurting, you take on that energy, you take on that emotion, and it's like, oh gosh, what do I do with all this? And I really don't like to see people feeling down about themselves. Like, I'm a very happy-go-lucky person, if you can't tell. I love to laugh. I love, to be around positive energy, and I love to be that person who can pick someone up when they're not feeling well. So it's definitely helped me as far as being empathetic in the field of behavior analysis, with encouraging my clients to, go for it. You can do it. Just rooting for them along the way. And as far as a writer, in terms of character development and in developing a character, or putting myself in a character's shoes and being able to speak from their perspective. So it's definitely a strength, but like I said, a weakness as well, because sometimes I can be in the best of moods, but as soon as I get around someone who's sad or, feeling depressed, it's like, oh, well, now I'm depressed.
Yeah.
I feel your pain. So, but empathy is definitely something that you need to have when you're working with individuals with developmental disabilities. And empathy is just good to have all around, but specifically when you are working with, whether you're a behavior analyst or not, being a parent, any type of caregiver, or just a complete stranger on the street, when you're interacting with individuals with developmental disabilities, you understand that some of them are going to have challenges, and you have to be able to allow them grace, because sometimes they need a bit extra time or attention in order to be able to understand and to accomplish certain things.
I love what you said. I'm going to quote you probably for years to come. I was just jotting down, which I just loved. Shanita, empathy is a strength and a weakness, and I think that's true. It's the reason why so many of us pursue. I'm going to call them helping professions, but that's why the people pursue behavior analysis, psychology, counseling, social work. It's because so many people suffer. And I think empathy is what drives us in. I never would have learned about behavior analysis had I not learned about humanism first in Carl Rogers, which spurred me to read a book that had Skinner in it. And I was fascinated by this guy. And I think because we are behavioral scientists, and I think you're just a wonderful example of this, because we're kind of scientific and demand evidence, doesn't mean we're not empathic. Quite the opposite. You said many of us kind of suffer from terminal empathy, right? Where we see the suffering and we want so bad to reduce and eliminate that suffering, and we work toward that end. I think many of us all the time in our day-to-day work, and I do think empathy is best conveyed in action in our work, and then beautifully, like you just said in your writing, where you cover certain topics and certain issues, and part of it is understanding the child's perspective, which you seem to understand far better than I probably ever would.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm a big kid. I'm a child at heart for sure.
I laugh easily too, Shanita. Again, like I said, we were long lost siblings from a past life, although I really don't believe
yes.
Shanita, would you do us a favor? Would you be willing to for a few minutes to read an excerpt from one of your books or so, and let the audience hear what you have to say? And you guys were fortunate enough too that when we do this, we're going to be graced with the illustrations as well. So following Shanita's reading of part of her book, we'll come back and do some more talking. If you have any questions, please let us know. Shanita, take it away.
All right. Thank you. Now I am going to share my screen, and let's see, which book do I want to read? All right,
you could give a little taste of two of them.
You're right.
Just give us
I can. All right, so let's start with Sleep Tiny Dreamer. Let me know if you can see that.
Showing up on my screen.
All right, so there's Sleep Tiny Dreamer. This is the cover. So now, let's see, here's the inside. So are you able to see that okay, Andrew?
Yes, I think that's clear for all of our screens.
Okay, great. So over here on the left-hand side, there's a little inspirational quote. I like to put inspirational quotes in the beginning of each of my books. So this one says, "Be inspired. The sky is never the limit. It's only the beginning." Sleep, tiny dreamer. Where will you go tonight? Will you swim across the ocean or will you take a flight? Will you soar into the sky like birds with feathered wings? Or will you go beyond the clouds to discover brand new things? Will you climb a mountain high that's 10,000 feet tall? Or dive beneath the earth's surface with creatures big and small? Will you be a hero brave and save the world tonight? Or will you dance among the stars and grace them with your delight? Will you write a song so sweet and sing for us to hear with a beautiful melody that makes us shed a tear? Will you be an artist and create a brand new color? All your pictures are so vibrant, they make the sun look duller. Will you be a royal highness sitting on a regal throne with gold, jewels, cakes, and cookies in the world's largest ice cream cone? Think of the wonders you can find and all the things that you can be. Close your eyes and dream, my love, and sure enough, you'll see. Sleep, my tiny dreamer. Where will you go tonight? I'm sure you'll tell me all about it in the morning light. The end.
Wow.
So that one was a very short one. So like I mentioned, it's more of like a lull your baby to sleep type of book, but it's also encouraging them to have wonderful dreams, you know, encouraging them to go to bed, sleep peacefully, and have all these amazing adventures in their sleep.
And then, you know, the next day, I love this, you're encouraging the kids to tell you about it.
Yes, 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 yes. So that was book number 1. Book number 2, I'll just read you an excerpt from that one because that one's a little longer.
Right.
So this is What is a Dream? Let me close that now. Okay. So here's another inspirational quote. If thoughts create things, let your mind give you wings. Be inspired. The sky is never the limit. It's only the beginning. One starry night, when the sky was super bright, little Ari climbed into bed and turned out the light. I wonder what I'll dream tonight. What places will I go? I guess until I close my eyes, I'll never really know. What is a dream? Asked a voice that came from down below. Ari looked at the floor in shock. Say it isn't so. Pepper, was that you? Did you just speak, for heaven's sake? Nah, you're a dog. I'm not dreaming yet. I'm still awake. Pepper looked at Ari and tilted her head to the right. Yep, I can talk, said Pepper, giving Ari quite a fright. First, Ari started screaming and headed for the door. Then she remembered Pepper's my friend and wasn't afraid anymore. Ari turned around and walked back towards her friend. I'm sorry I ran away, Pepper. I hope I didn't offend. It's okay, said Pepper, excitedly wagging her tail. I know it's shocking to hear me speak. Just breathe, inhale, exhale. Ari sat back on the bed and tried hard to relax. When did you start talking, Pepper? Tell me all the facts. I could always talk, she said. I speak to you every day. And now that you are wiser, you understand what I say. I'm glad that's finally happened and that now we can converse. So many things to talk about, said Pepper, but first things first. Now, Pepper's going to ask what dreams are, not to give the story away. But I will stop right there.
Thank you. That was fantastic. We've already got some feedback, I see. We'll get to that in just a second. Now, you can keep your story up or you can stop sharing your screen. Either way, it's entirely up to you. I'm going to bring up our chat.
Okay.
Just a second.
I'll stop sharing.
Got some comments about funny, nice, love the illustrations. What a great story. I love the simplicity. Looks great. Shanita, wow.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Continued positive feedback. And we all know as behavior analysts how important that is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is very important.
Super important. Absolutely love it. Working with an illustrator. What's that? Tell us a little bit about that process, especially, I figured that probably, the reality of who our audience is probably pretty broad. And I would think this is going to hit people who are behavior analysts, people who are into Florida Tech and Florida Tech alums want to hear people like you who've achieved so much in such a short time as one of our alums, and then maybe even prospective authors and other people who have interest. But tell us a little bit about collaboration. You're used to collaborating as a behavior analyst. What's it like collaborating as an author with an illustrator, knowing that these stories are, again, so personal and meaningful to you?
Yes, yes. Well, I will say that being an author, especially if you're going the self-publishing route, it's so empowering. I have full creative control and I love it. So finding an illustrator is definitely a key component to bringing your story to life. You have to be able to mesh well with the person that you choose, because they have to be able to basically take your words, and it's just words initially. So they have to be able to take your words and translate that into images. So the illustrator that I actually found my illustrator online. There's like a freelance forum where you can just go and find editors and illustrators, people who help with marketing, which I haven't used any of those, but I've only used the editor and the illustrator. And Arne, and I absolutely loved her work. So I reached out to her and she was available, and we were just so in sync. The only thing I really gave her guidance on was what I wanted the character to look like. Okay. As far as everything else in the story, she came up with all of that on her own. But the interesting part about that, or the wonderful part about that, is everything that she drew is what I had imagined in my mind. Wow. So that's why I say we were just totally in sync with everything. I'm like, oh my gosh. So she did a really great job of translating my words into art. So that is like the most fun part of the entire process, seeing the illustrations, seeing your book come to life.
There's a beautiful synchronicity between your words and the art. It flows seamlessly, and that's fantastic. So again, maybe it's a little bit of luck, a lot of reinforcement, and then a little something else in between. Yes. So yeah, you've written 9 books. Okay, you told us you have you have this series, Little Dreamers series. Is there something next for you? Is it now time for you to kind of sit back and market the books, get out there and continue to publicize them? Or are you already thinking, I would imagine you're a great thinker because you've written 9 books on top of your day-to-day job. But I would imagine sometimes maybe as a creative force, and many of my family are artists, that creativity. Are you onto something next? Or are you able to sit back now and enjoy this time that you're having, promoting the book and reading to daycares and schools and being featured in the newspaper and what have you?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a little bit of all of that, minus the sitting back and relax part.
Not possible.
Because I wrote 9 books, but I only have 2 of them published so far. And the ones that I have published, they come with, it's sold separately, but they also have matching coloring books. So book number 3 is actually on the horizon. So I've been working with my illustrator, and that should be done by, I'll say maybe the beginning of April. So I'll be able to release that hopefully sometime in April. And from there, we're just going to keep knocking out, the rest of the books in the series. So I'm still, doing the marketing and publicizing all of that. I'm very, very active on Instagram. I have a totally separate Instagram page for the books. Let's Go Dreaming 11. So Let's Go Dreaming 11. So I post over there pretty much daily. I'm going to
follow you right now.
Oh, great. Yes, please follow me. Let's Go Dreaming 11. You'll see the baby, my logo. You'll see that's the profile picture for the book page. And I actually just made the announcement this morning that book number 3 is coming soon. Okay. So yeah, so
Brian just put your Instagram into the chat for anybody who's interested in popping on Instagram and following Shanita.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I'm on Facebook as well. Let's Go Dreaming 11, but I tend to get more engagement on Instagram, so I'm more active on Instagram. You know the whole positive reinforcement thing that we discussed, Andrew.
Yeah.
We like positive reinforcement too, us behavior analysts. So the more feedback we get and engagement with our posts, that's where we spend the majority of our time.
Let me see if I'm correct about this. So you just, I positive reinforcement sometimes gets a bad name because, again, the people who don't study behavior analysis but maybe read more popular in psychology or newspaper experts think it's always food and always this. And I think what people forget is it tends to be feedback more than anything, and that people really want feedback. When people say, let me give you some more feedback, by the way, let's continue on this road. Feedback is important. Positive reinforcement helps build. In fact, Skinner, B.F. Skinner, who was the father of behaviorism, was real into creativity. And I'm going to get back to that in a second. But he was also into this, understood the importance of reinforcement. Here's some more reinforcement for you. Amazing story. Great job. Very nice. Excellent, Shanita. Love it. And then the one that, I don't know, kind of hit me at home, give me a little goosebumps here. Great story that I can see myself in.
Oh, wow. That means the world. That means the world to me. Thank you.
Very nice. You guys, again, thanks for all that feedback. It does. My family, again, being artists, they don't do it for, Shanita, I hope to make a fortune off your series. I hope Oprah picks it up as part of the book club and it gets out there. And I can say I interviewed her but I know that people who are creative do it because, again, you said your dream was to be an author, and you've achieved that dream, which is mind-boggling to think. Again, people can achieve their dreams. You're a living testimony to the very books that you're writing and encouraging children to do. But I know you probably don't do it for the money. It's that feedback does matter because you're looking for people to find worth in it and value and say this meant a lot to me, and like the beautiful comments you just got. So.
Yes, absolutely. That makes everything worthwhile because there have been times where I thought about giving up, like, oh, is this the right route for me? I don't know how to reach enough people in order to be able to, get the message out there. And it can be discouraging when you're first starting out. But like you said, Andrew, it's not about the money whatsoever. The money is nice. It's a perk, but I don't do it for that. I do it because I love interacting with children. I love helping other people. I love inspiring other people. And I feel like this is just an important message that I need to get out there. So the more comments that I receive, people telling me how much they love the book or, how much it inspired them to want to try new things or inspire them to believe in themselves. That is what matters the most. That to me is priceless.
If you don't mind, I'll kind of continue on talking for a second. Tom made a comment. He says, very inspiring to see behavior analysts branch out and spread, our philosophy in other venues. I couldn't agree with Tom more. It's so important to, I think sometimes we feel we're behavior analysts, and that's the wheelhouse we have to stay in versus we were children who dreamed of becoming authors one day and we did it. I'm a big Skinner fan, obviously, as a behavior analyst, and he used to talk about creativity, to engage in behavior that generates new ideas or new behaviors. And talking to my brothers who paint, they would always say, you don't ever paint a masterpiece without first putting paint onto canvas. Is your writing process similar? Because you told us about the beach. So with all the work you just told us you're doing a few minutes ago, I'm assuming you're spending a lot of time right now at the beach. But tell us a little about the creative process. Again, you go to the beach, you bring a notepad. Is it an iPad? I know you grew up like I did on pen and paper. What do you tell us a little bit about the creative process as a writer?
Pen and paper for sure. Well, the book started with an idea of, because I think that's probably the foundation of anything as far as creativity is concerned. It starts with an idea, like where are you going? What do you want your end result to be? So my idea was to write one children's book, just one, about dreams, about inspiring young minds to dream. and just instilling that confidence in them, letting them know that there is power in positive thinking. You know, if you believe in yourself, then you are capable of achieving great things. So just that one idea, just that spark, and that started before I even made it to the beat. So, you know, just coming up with my idea first and just kind of brainstorming, well, how do I want this story to flow? And if you notice, all of my stories rhyme. So, you know, because I love poetry as well. And Dr. Seuss was a big influence for me growing up. And I was just inspired by him and stories, the colorful pictures, and, you know, just the, you know, the quirky things that would happen in the stories. But the rhyme is what stuck with me the most. I think it's easier for children to remember something when it rhymes. So going to the beach, got my notebook and my pen, and I would just sit and just, you know, just listen to the ocean and, you know, just watch all the birds and people having fun. And I would just listen to, I listened to a lot of jazz music, like neo soul. So that was playing while I was at the beach, and I would just get into like this zone of, you know, free flowing creativity, and the words would just come. Like, I know what I want to say, but now I have to figure out how to make it rhyme and how to make it make sense, you know? So that was my process. So I would go to the beach and I would just write, you know, the words would just flow. So I would just write. And every time I left the beach, one book was done.
See, I'm so impressed. And part of talking about the creative process too, selfishly from my end, was to go, okay, here's, because I enjoy writing, but more technical type writing about, you know, behavior stuff. But I'm like, gosh, I can't, I start writing something and then it just doesn't get done. So in talking about your process, I'm kind of having you task analyze for us, you know, you're not only you're creative, but you're productive. You know, can we look, what can we learn from you? And I think we just learned a whole lot. You talked about, you know, your preferred mode is pen and paper. It's always pen and paper. You go to the beach, you listen to the sounds. Again, all these great ways to help any of us who want to be creative and be more productive. There's kind of a method to the madness, right? It's sometimes understanding our own behavior. So thank you for letting us analyze you here for the last
no problem
few minutes.
My pleasure.
A few things. One, Kathleen says, Shanita, you have inspired me. Thank you. Tom also said, ultimately, applied behavior analysis is about helping others fulfill their own dreams. And so both in your 40-hour-a-week BCBA job and as author, you seem to be living that idea that was one of Jose, as Tom said, one of Jose Martinez Diaz's core missions. And so what an inspiration you are to our behavioral community and to the community of people who want to be writers and creators and what have you. Lastly, Tom wants to know, who would you recommend as some great neo soul artists?
Oh, I love Mesa. Mesa is, you see how easy that just rolled off my tongue?
Like that.
In the question, it's like, oh yeah, Mesa. She is wonderful, and she's been around for a very long time. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. It's Mays, but she has some original songs, but for the most part, she remakes everybody else's song. And I'm one of those people, like, just give me the original. I don't want any knockoffs. I don't want anybody trying to reinvent the wheel. I like the original. So mostly like original songs, or, you know, like Karate Kid. I love Karate Kid. And I was kind of, I was like, what? They're remaking the Karate Kid, but I actually ended up loving it. But let me not get on a tangent. So with Mesa, because I'm just like, you know, you just create this emotional connection with whoever did it first, you know, like that's what I'm used to. They sung it first, so that's the best version. Or, you know, the same thing with movies. But Mesa remakes other people's songs, and I kid you not, they sound better. Most of her songs sound better than the original, and that's very hard to do. Like, she's remade some Lionel Richie songs, you know, just like, you know, Commodores, just some very popular R&B songs, and she's remade them, and they just sound amazing. I did see somebody mention in the comments for me to spell it again. It's Maysa. Mesa. She is amazing. Amazing. Hill Street Soul is another good one. What I do is, because I have Google Play, which is now YouTube Music, so I just put, if you would just put in her name, in one of her songs will pop up, and you just play it, and then it'll populate a bunch of different similar artists. So that's what I usually do, but she is great. So that's where I would start with Neo Soul.
Thank you so much for that, Shanita. Now Tom can continue to expand his musical interest. What have you? We got another comment from Isabel. She says, "Thanks for sharing the way you put behavior analysis knowledge into practice with our little ones. It's awesome." You guys, this has been Shanita Allen, BCBA, proud Florida Tech alum, and the author of the Let's Go Dreaming book series. Go out there and get it. Encourage others. Hit her up on Facebook and Instagram. Shanita, it was an absolute pleasure talking with you and learning a whole lot from you in our time together today.
It was a pleasure speaking with you too, Andrew. I enjoyed every moment. Somebody needs to interview you, by the way. Just throwing it out there.
I am not nearly.
You have a lot. You have a story to tell. I can tell just hearing you talk about your art and how you write books and stuff. So you definitely have a story to tell.
Shanita, I just was born into a family and get to become friends with cool people like you. That's all. But anyway, you guys, thank you so much. It was great. Shanita, have a wonderful day. And again,
thank you, everyone.
Be best with your writings.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.